have you ever installed macOS?
Yes, sort of, kind of, right? I mean, you just go into the recovery mode and just tell it go, and it downloads the thing and does the thing and just drops you at the thing. So
it's a weird process, though, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's oddly difficult.
Right.
So,
I guess that's where my point, right? Yeah, it's not
someone
made.
would have taken it.
It's not made to be installed by the end user. I don't think
someone would have taken it to a genius.
It's a technician tool,
and they would have. Yeah, because I mean, even, like, what is it, like Command R during reboot, and then it drops you into recovery mode, and then it's crazy. So
yeah, not super intuitive. I mean, yes, you can find instructions to do it online. Yes, it can be done. It's just not intended to be that way. Whereas Linux is absolutely intended for anyone and everyone to try to install. Coming up in this episode, we add to the KDE saga. We search for the humans on the other end of the internet. We pore over the feedback. We focus on the Gen 2 feedback. Hello and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Dan.
And I'm Leah. So Dan, a little while ago, I guess earlier today, actually, as we record this on the 31st, January 31st.
Yep.
There was a KDE Ask Me Anything over on their Lemmy specifically. They have a KDE Lemmy instance where all of this cool stuff happens.
It's cool, though. I love the fact that Lemmy is getting used for this type of thing. And the KDE developers are willing to jump in there. And you can ask them anything.
Literally anything.
I know.
I don't know if my questions were good, but I asked questions.
I think they were on point.
Yes, because we have recently been trying out KDE Plasma 6 RC1, and we got the recommendation to do it on Rawhide. So we've been over in Fedora land getting the fire hose to the face of updates, which happen almost every single day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I'd ask the KDE developers themselves, what's the best or recommended way to test out Plasma 6 RC2? And they said,
Neon testing in a VM or on bare metal if you're adventurous. Arch with the KDE Unstable repo is good too, but that also includes a snapshot of the unreleased Qt 6.7, which introduces more bugs.
Yeah, and I guess if you're really trying to do all the bug reports and do all the hunting and stuff like that, that's the place to do it.
It could be, yeah. It's probably a bit overwhelming, but someone needs to jump in there and get it done, I suppose.
Yep.
And so, like, we did some testing beyond just the Rawhide thing, though, too. Like, I did Neon for a little bit and tested it out there. I think the Plasma, like, it was pretty uneventful for me, honestly. It just worked, which is a good thing. It was really enjoyable. I think having other distros to test it in as well is a good plan, because the way applications can interact and the different versions and whatnot, depending on how you install them, makes a difference, right? So, if you're installing a Flatpak, as an example, like the way the portals work potentially could be different if it rather than just a native package. So I think testing multiple different things in multiple different ways is probably really beneficial to the overall QA process.
Yeah, and I believe it was Nate that was answering these questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think before it's all said and done, I'm gonna have to try out Neon, but I haven't really had any problems with Fedora Rawhide, so I may actually just not do that because I'm getting the best of the best, and it's really been pretty good.
Yeah.
The issues that I've had, I just needed to wait a day or two, accept those updates, install those updates, and I've been good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, something that's going to change soon, possibly in 40, is blur was not enabled for me, and I was very sad about that.
Right.
It's like my favorite feature. And it turns out that Fedora had turned that off because there were some bugs in some NVIDIA hardware, the Apple ARM
Yeah, I was going to say,
stack.
yeah, the Apple, yeah, the Macs. Yep.
And I think there were a couple of other graphics chips that did not like.
Yeah, they didn't behave well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that got turned off by default because
That's fair.
You know,
it's eye
keep
candy.
it safe,
right? Yeah.
Keep it safe and sane. And if you actually look, you're able to just turn it back on, which is what I did. I enjoyed the blur way too much, and I'm on Intel and Radeon hardware, so
yeah, you were unaffected.
Usually,
yep.
Yeah. If you're able to run on Mesa, you're probably going to be just fine.
Right. So yeah, no, that was good.
And I asked one more. I said, just personally, I wanted to know, what has been the hardest problem to solve moving to Qt 6?
Personally, I'd have to say the large number of API and behavior changes in Qt Quick that Qt 6 brought. We use Qt Quick very heavily throughout KDE, so this has required a lot of mandatory porting work, more than in our Qt widgets-based software. And there have even been changes between Qt 6.5, 6.6, and 6.7, so it's still a bit of a moving target. Yeah, and I think that response was somewhat consistent. There was another one that was very similar to that also said Qt Quick or the QML stuff is probably the hardest thing to keep up with.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So that was interesting, and we've got a link in the show notes for all the rest of the questions I got asked over there on the AMA. I'll see if I can't dig up the Reddit one as well, because I know that there are going to be similar questions over there, but, some questions that didn't make it over to the Lemmy side as well. So really cool reading, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the KDE developers for taking the time to answer the questions, from all of the users. I think that's fantastic. I think it's just great community, work right there.
Absolutely. So when we post out, we'll take the long show and chop them up and put them into individual episodes, so that you don't have to sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and try to consume the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
So we'll put them out in smaller episodes. And we just recently released the KDE history by itself, and a KDE dev, Troy Unrau, had commented about the history section when we hit KDE 4.0. And a little bit of background, this is where I kind of stop and talk about how KDE 4.0 was not ready for prime time. And it wasn't until 4.2 that it was. And that was the green flag. That was go. Get on KDE now.
And that was intentional.
Yes.
Or at least the design of that was intentional.
And we, the coolest part about this is Tony Unrau was actually involved in the decision-making process that led up to that intentionality. So anyway, he, as a comment, wrote on that video.
It's funny. I was around from KDE 1.1 to about 4.7, and some of those decisions were things I was involved in directly. Like the branding shift towards KDE as a community, people sharing vision and development infrastructure, as opposed to KDE as a monolithic desktop environment. I haven't been involved for ages now. I did some coding too, but not a ton. The KDE 4.0 release messaging was one of my core tasks. We had a release party in Mountain View, and we invited all the packagers for all the distros to the event. Linux community luminaries like Patrick Volkerding were there, and it was a great party. But we thought that by bringing all the packaging types there, we had the messaging problem bottled, and KDE 3.5 and 4.0 would be offered alongside each other as though they were different desktops entirely, or like Gnome or whatever. just choose what you want to launch in your session manager. What happened instead is that 3.5 was dropped like a hot potato, and users fled 4.0. Distros didn't want two versions of libraries installed, so running a 3.5 app in a 4.0 environment was difficult, but not all of the 4.0 apps had been ported yet. Yikes! This is a huge reason for the subsequent split between version numbering of the desktop releases, later Plasma, and things like frameworks. Side note, we had even considered the idea of KDE as a community offering multiple desktop interface offerings, each with its own branding. So you could run Plasma, Kicker, a hypothetical 3.x desktop environment ported to the current frameworks, etc., alongside applications from multiple versions of desktops. This was the reason the session management code was in KRunner rather than Plasma, for example. This would allow highly experimental user interfaces to be developed around the KDE libraries. But that never happened, as far as I can tell. Anyway, for 4.0, so much for Linux applications and the mantra, release early, release often.
I really wanted to talk about this thing that he said about Kicker.
Mm-hmm.
We heard this part, right?
Yeah.
That instead of it being a fork and Trinity desktop environment, there was, at least for a moment, the idea that 3 was gonna live on and be ported to the new base with Qt and everything else.
Yeah, so the concept wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't weird. And so Kicker is the menu thing, right? There's different menu, like it got renamed, I think, probably somewhere along the way.
Yeah. Kick off, right?
Kickoff?
The kickoff menu, something like that.
Yeah,
it's kick something.
So there's different application menus that you can you go into, right click on the menu thing, and you can do the show alternates, and you can pick between them, right?
Choose any random keyword, and it's probably a part of the KDE desktop somewhere.
Probably somewhere, yeah. So yeah, no, and it sounds like there was going to be a more minimal type of desktop environment, but that never came to fruition.
For things that would never be, I guess, I really, really wish that would have become a thing, because I think it's just because I really kind of cut my teeth on KDE 3. That was really where my Linux journey started, on Slackware 8-ish, something like that, and I just have a real soft spot for KDE 3, and I don't really have a good reason as to why, and it's probably just because it's where I started. But
yeah,
that would have been really interesting to see, and that would have likely prevented the Trinity desktop environment fork altogether.
Yeah, if they had done that, if they continued on with 3, I don't think people would have tried to, keep that fork going, right? They would have had an option. They wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah, so that was a real reason. I think Troy mentions that they thought they had it wrapped up by telling everybody involved that would be packaging this up, that the messaging would carry on and everybody would know how this was going to work. Just hang on to 3. Just don't go anywhere just yet. You don't have to run both unless you're testing it.
Right.
But, wait a little bit until we iron out the details in 4. And, well, yeah, I don't think the messaging may have gotten to the packaging folks, because, right. Almost everything had KDE 4.
Right.
But it didn't trickle down any further than that, and people, the same as me.
Right, and then the people that were using it had such a bad experience because it wasn't quite ready yet. So, he said, well, the applications weren't ported over. Yeah, it was it was a bad scenario, right? And so, having ripped out the thing that worked and given you this unfinished thing, it was a bad look, and it left people with a bad taste, and they moved on to other things like Gnome and stuff.
How unfortunate, man.
Mm-hmm.
We only got to see one side of it. Now we get to see the other side of it.
Right.
And they thought they had it locked down.
They tried something and it didn't work out. And in hindsight, they fixed it, but it was unfortunate for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think Plasma had the same release cadence, nor the same release ideas.
Right.
And I think Plasma 6 is going to be the same way, right?
Yeah, it seems to be like they actually have the release candidates named RC and like the alpha and the beta and like they're labeled, right? Rather than relying on the version number, it only takes a couple of letters to actually give you an actual indication of where things are at.
Yeah, and they have this habit of doing really high version numbers or dot version numbers.
They still do
indicate.
Yeah, on the back end, on the packaging side of things, you'll get these crazy high numbers that are approaching the next release number, but they aren't quite there yet, right?
Yeah, like right now I'm on Plasma 5.89, I think. So like it's what will become Plasma 6, and it is Plasma 6 RC1. I haven't done the RC2 yet because it just released like right now. But I 5.89. That gives you a better indication of where you're at, what you're running, and what you can expect. If you dig into some of the details, but it's not 6. It's approaching 6.
It's approaching. Yep. It's a bit of calculus there.
Yep. It really is. So they've learned from I don't even know that it was a mistake, right? Because they even planned for it. And they told everybody
I think they just fixed it, right? Yeah. Not so much a mistake. It was just something we need to address going forward. And I feel like they have, at least like you said, with the versioning numbers and actually labeling things as release candidates and alphas and stuff like that. I think it solves the problem.
Yeah. It really did. It really did. For me, anyway, because I know where I stand. And it's still pretty good. From where I'm standing, it's still pretty good as long as I can remember to go check the blur box in Fedora.
Well, I think if you, when it comes time for release, you won't have to do that. From what I know, it'll be already enabled for you.
And we did get an answer, by the way. Neil gave us an answer as to how to step off a rawhide. I don't know if we asked this question in the previous episode or not, but it's certainly a question that we asked. Which is, when's the right time to step off a rawhide? And there is a right time. There is a right time.
Yeah, wherever we asked it, he answered it in Discord. So that's where we got our answer. So that was good. It was very helpful, and thank you.
Yeah, so when we step off, we'll let everybody know.
All right. If you love what you're, us, and you want to see our faces, you can do that on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. If you're listening to us, obviously. If you're watching us on YouTube, obviously you already know that.
Hi.
But we also have TILvids, which is where we drop like the history bits and some, juicy little nuggets over there too, which is great. TILvids is a great sponsor, great platform to be hosted on. I'm super appreciative. They help, content creators like us get started in a free and open source federated mechanism. So I love that.
That's right.
You can follow us in Mastodon or Lemmy from TILvids. Like it's amazing to me. It's great. They're all federated. So it's a fantastic situation. And like if you made a comment on a video and you followed us in Mastodon, it shows up in TILvids, which is very neat.
Actually, when somebody responds to us on TILvids, I use our main account, our main Mastodon account to reply to that instead of using the TILvids account. That way, we only speak with one of the accounts. We post videos with the TILvids account. That way there's a separation of, if you're trying to just listen to what we're talking about.
It's still us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I try to keep that separated because it's easier for my brain, but it does make a little bit of sense. But it still shows up. That's the beauty of the Federation thing is that it shows up no matter what you do. Yep.
And so you can get that right into your feed wherever you want to follow that, you can. And it's pretty fantastic. But if you really love us, you can support us over on Patreon. Give us $1 or $2, and that gets you some perks. You get early access to episodes. You get access to the Lemmy instance if you want to join.
Yeah.
Some great stuff. High quality audio too, not just the regular great audio. It's super high quality. And so you can get all the dulcet tones of my face over there. So Yeah, we appreciate your support, and if you want to do that, you can do it over on patreon.com/LinuxUserspace.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but in Ubuntu 22.04 and beyond, app images don't work out of the box. What?
Yep, app images are broken. Yep.
So to fix it, all you have to do, apt install libfuse2.
Yes.
That's it. Install it, and your app images work. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
There was a lot of grumbling about this when 2204 came out because, people wanted to install their app images, and they did. They dragged them over there, but they didn't launch and didn't do the things they wanted them to because libfuse2 got demoted from the main repository to the universe repository, and then it became community, effort to keep that up to date because libfuse 3 it's the replacement essentially, right? So
you got to move on eventually.
You got to get the new one out there, and so that that can be the thing, and it's the thing getting updates so that vulnerabilities aren't a problem and whatnot. And it's in the main repo, which is why that's included in Ubuntu, because everything in main shows up there, right? It's not that you can't co-install the two, and it's not that it doesn't exist in Ubuntu. It just doesn't exist out of the box, I think, is the frustrating part, right? And so there is a solution for it. And I think the app image developers are hesitant to adopt the new Fuse 3 because it's not everywhere yet. So you have this chicken and an egg sort of thing. Where does it begin? And so I don't know that it's a terrible situation in that there is a solution, and it does work, and everybody can do the stuff they need to do. It just isn't there and available out of the gate.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, as far as I understand, this is basically just on Ubuntu machines 22.04 and beyond. I don't know of any of the flavors that do add that to the installation as in the base installation. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Internet.
Oh, they will.
I know they will. I love saying wrong things because
I know there's
you
at
get
least
the right answer real fast.
Right. I know there's at least one that doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Main Ubuntu, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so Lubuntu doesn't either.
Yeah, and I ran into this because I'm on 2310, and I use the Bitwarden app image because that is the one that they make themselves, and I'm a big guy as far as using the developers' software themselves. If they put it together, that's the one I want to use, and especially for a security-focused software like that, I want to use what they.
If you want some solace in that. They do also create the snap for that as well. Okay. So you can, they publish that as well. If you look in the Snap store, you can use that as well. If that makes you feel any better, so you don't get the heebie-jeebies.
A little bit, actually a little bit. Yes. I think, but because I use things like Fedora Rawhide and I'm on Fedora 39 on the desktop, it using the same thing everywhere is just kind of, it's nice. I know what to expect no matter where I sit down and where I do my work. I can, type in Bitwarden or whatever and it'll go. So yeah, that's super important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know who maintains the Flatpak. It could be them. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think they may be involved, but I don't think it's first party.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
Yeah. I'm not there yet.
Yeah. No, understood. Yeah, so the app image, it's like app images for me are a little frustrating anyway sometimes, even though you do all the steps and sometimes it still doesn't end up working super great.
Yeah.
I feel like the experience isn't necessarily consistent. So, it's not my first recommend that for that, right? I can work it. I can figure it out. It just isn't my go-to.
So to recap, if you're using Ubuntu 22.04 or newer, and you just can't figure out how to install or use, you don't really install them, right? How to use
you just launch
app images, apt install libfuse2 and you're golden. You don't have to reboot nothing. That's all you got to do. And you can go double click your app images with confidence.
Yep. After you make them executable, you're good to go. All right. So, Leo, did you know there's humans on the other end of that internet thing?
No, they're all robots. That's not true at all. All the developers, all the people on Discord, all of the people on Reddit and Lemmy and everywhere else. I think I'm the only human.
Yeah, they're just bots on the other end, right?
Yeah. I think that includes you too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm not real. I'm AI.
No. Yeah, there are humans. It turns out, and those humans, have expectations and intentions, and they understand things differently than you may have intended them to be. Turns out.
So this segment is sparked by a tweet by one of my Lubuntu teammates, Simon Quigley. And essentially, I'm going to pick out the first quote that I'm going to pick out here. It says, open source is more than open code. It's open collaboration and open community. So I think that sets a tone for what we're talking about here, right? It's something that we harbor very well, I think, is a great community, and it's the focus of this.
Yeah, if I were a good podcaster / video person on the internet, I would have gone back. We actually have an episode with the main topic being this before.
You did.
And it was like in season 2. It was at least right. 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was called Linux Friendly Space.
It was. Yeah.
And it's not exactly the same, but it's in the same ballpark.
Absolutely.
Where there are people.
Yeah.
So, setting the tone. So Simon says, in open source projects, you find a variety of contributors. Some have been around for decades. Others have been around for months. Some are paid for their work. Others do it out of the kindness of their heart. Some people are just starting out in the tech industry and need a place of belonging. Others have been in the tech industry for decades. Given these facts, it's important that everyone works well together when the opportunity to accomplish collaborative work presents itself. An often forgot mantra in the Linux community specifically is know your audience. Understanding who you're talking to and why you're talking to them is as critical, if not more important than the message itself. People lose focus. It can be easier sometimes to tell someone to just RTFM or ignore them, because if they would just duck go it this specific way, remember that you too were once that inexperienced. On the other side of this, dealing with people more experienced than you, remember that basic respect goes a long way. I've met many people who are critical contributors to major projects, but if you walked by them in the streets, you'd never know. We need to be compassionate and respectful toward these people as well. Their mistakes may be more impactful, but they put their shoes on one foot at a time, just like you and I. If everyone feels good when contributing to an open source project, it will continue. If you let sour emotions get the best of you and everyone in the project, it will consume the project along with it. There are a couple of quotes that you pulled out of this one that I think really kind of encapsulate what Simon's getting at here.
2 that I pulled out beyond the other one. It's, if everyone feels good when contributing to an open source project, it will continue. If you let sour emotions get the best of you and everyone in the project, it will consume the project along with it. And when Simon wrote this, I'll give you a little bit of context. There was some friction going on, and we were feeling a little frustrated with some of the things that were happening, and it was bumping up against the holidays. So it was a transition time for like AppArmor or something, and they'd made some changes, and it broke a lot of things, and we were getting, as a project, frustrated in a way. And so the advice here was more than just to the world. It was somewhat directly to us as the Lubuntu contributors too, and that, maybe just walk away for a minute and don't let your emotions get the best of you, right? And that was really sound advice. But I mean, it holds true for a lot of other things too. So that's why I pulled it out and wanted to highlight it.
Yeah, and one of those things specifically was we just had another Linus rant that was heard round the world.
Yeah, not the first time he's done that, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it was specifically to a Google engineer, and if rumors are true, then a little bit of the code that was selected to be given upstream to the Linux kernel directly was a ChatGPT written function that supposedly the Google engineer did not know what it did. But Dan and I were talking about it prior to the show, and you don't have to be the most amazing communicator in the entire world. You just have to have a little empathy. And I get and I understand that I don't think this was the first time this was tried.
No.
To be upstreamed. So I get that the frustration is building and building and building.
The words that we came up with were, don't confuse passion with compassion.
And I think that's how people describe Linus. And a lot of that...
He's passionate. He is passionate.
Yeah. A lot of that 90s hacker culture attitude has continued on. It still lives on today, and I think Linus kind of embodies a whole lot of it, though he's gotten better over time.
Much better.
Yeah, he's very good at not directly attacking the person and attacking the code instead, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Oh, yeah.
And Linus is not the only one. He's just the most relevant example as we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the passion-compassion thing. Like, you can have all the passion in the world, but you also have to temper that with compassion.
Yeah.
Because without it, those kinds of messages, and you can be straight and blunt and to the point, but those messages come off really bad and really, really off-puts people that could be contributors to the project.
I was going to say, do you have a project if you're the only one contributing?
Right. And, there's a lot of status to be had when you're one of the kernel contributors. But even...
that's high level. That needs to be high level for a reason. I get that.
Yeah.
Like, it absolutely does. It's the core of everything that we do.
And just last month, Hector Martin kind of had a bit of a falling out for the same reasons, where he was calling out very specific things that were not great. And the way that he put them was not the best way to put that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about Hector, one of the most amazing things about Hector, beside the fact that he is one of the preeminent Apple M series Mac kernel developers. I mean,
he might go down as the best reverse engineer ever. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, look at the things he's done, right? It's amazing to me.
Yeah. One of the most amazing things about him, besides his code, is that he's self-aware. And when mistakes like that are brought up to him, he takes them, internalizes them, learns from them, and does better. And that's something that I think, nobody has to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to write the perfect email every single time. But you do have to take that feedback when it's coming at you from all sides, because maybe, just maybe, they have a point.
Listen, we make code iterative. There's no reason the person behind it can't be too.
Listen, Linus 3.0 may one day get here, but 2.0 is better.
Much better. That's all I can say. Like, it is much better. Yeah, no, I remember the 90s.
There is a stark absence of name calling. So, it is better, and he should be praised for stuff. Linus should be praised for stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But there's work to be done. There's still work to be done.
And so the final quote that I got here that I pulled out was, remember that you were once inexperienced too. And so, absolutely, like, everyone has a starting place, and if you don't help foster their growth, they might not. And then, that gives them a bad taste, and they're not going to help you with your project, and it's just a bad look. Don't do that. Like, don't tell people to go read the manual. Give them an answer, and then tell them for follow-up information, they should go read the manual. I feel like it's not the thing you said, it's the way you said it, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And specifically in the Ask Me Anything for KDE, I actually got an RTFM type answer, but in the right way.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of my favorite things about this. And so the question was, what's the best or recommended way to test out Plasma 6 RC2, right? But it turns out there's actually a document that tells you that answer. I didn't know that existed, but I do now. And all it said was it quoted my question and said, see also, and a direct link to the direct paragraph that answered my question. You do not have to be a jerk about it. And this is a good way, in the least amount of words.
I was going to say, didn't have to say a lot either.
Exactly. But, RTFM versus see also.
Right.
It makes a huge difference in the impact when that lands to someone that's receptive to that type of answer, right?
It's a nudge instead of a shove.
There you go. Oh, I like that. That's a good way to put it.
So no, it was a good approach. It's something I try to be cognizant of when I'm giving support live in the chats for various different things. I'd be like, okay, well, here's how you do that, but have you looked at our manual? Because it's pretty great, and it could help you in the future if you need to refer to this.
There's a good way to do those kinds of things.
Right.
Those interactions where you have to say that kind of thing. There are better ways.
Yep. And so I just want to round it out and saying that, I love my Lubuntu teammates. They give me great food for thought, even though they weren't even trying for that. Yeah, I love this tweet. I just can't get enough of it. So hopefully we can spread it around again, because I know sometimes Twitter falls off if it's not there in the first 24 hours. So hopefully
Mastodon's not like that. I did a toot. Do we still call them toots? I don't know.
I guess so.
I posted a toot, and it was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
And you're still getting feedback on it, right?
Yeah, I was joke complaining about the amount of updates that I was getting from Rawhide, because it's every day, man.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I still get a like or a what is it? A boost?
Boost.
It's just a boost, not
it's
a reboot.
Just a boost. Yeah, it's just a boost.
Okay, yeah. And so they trickle in every now and then. And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really get that on the other platforms.
You don't get that in the X or the Twitter or whatever we're calling that.
Yeah. Once it's buried, it's buried.
Yeah, 24 hours later, it's gone.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can spark it up again, and that'll be great.
So catch these and other great topics as they unfold on our Lemmy, our subreddit, our news channel on Discord. Oh my God, that reminds me. I forgot to put the news stuff on Discord. Oops. Sorry, Discord people.
Whoops-a-daisy.
But to get to any of those places, my favorite thing is linuxuserspace.show/thething, and that's Lemmy, Reddit, Discord, Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Twitch, and Twitter. So any of those things that you want to get a hold of us on, or you just want to you want to catch the news feed, because there's a lot of good news, and sometimes I get a little overwhelmed. It takes a couple days for that stuff to come out, but it's a really cool thing to just, even if you don't want to be on those social things, you can subscribe to the Lemmy in RSS.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to actually log in or any of that stuff. You can still see all the posts. They're public, and you can subscribe to that. In whatever way you want to do that, you can do that, and they'll be there.
Yep. But don't forget that if for some reason you are, I don't know, maybe wanting a username at lemmy.linuxuserspace.show, we have those, and any patron, doesn't matter how much you pay, any patron is eligible for one of those usernames.
But yeah, no, absolutely reach out to us. Let us know that you did that, so that we know that you're a human and it's not just a bot trying to sign up. So that'd be great. But yeah, like if you're a patron, definitely, if you want to join, we'll get you set up.
Yep, just sign up in the little comment section. Just I'm a patron, and if your Lemmy username is not the same as your Patreon username, then just tell us what your Patreon username is, and we'll get that approved.
That way we can link them together, and we know that you are you.
Yep, exactly. So join us on Lemmy or any of the other places. Lemmy's just kind of cool because it's ours as opposed to on some platform, right?
Yep.
And it's an easy way to get to that cool KDE AMA. So you could do that too.
Yep. You can catch all the great links at linuxuserspace.show. And coming up in the next segment, we got feedback. So if you want to send some feedback to us, you can do it via email. That's contact@linuxuserspace.show.
Got him.
And this first email, it's a lot.
Hold on 1 sec. Before we get into all of these emails, I do have to, and it's going to be the first line, and I stopped you before we got there, but there have been more than one, quite a few people that emailed me, us, and noted my what's the word here? My lust for email communication.
They took it to heart. Let's put it that way.
I love it. But the best part about that is that you're listening. We know you're listening,
and that's why we're responding.
Oh man, I love the feedback. Especially email feedback, because it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get buried. It can't be. It's just there, and I can star it and not forget it.
And it lets us have a good dialogue. Like, it's awesome.
Yes. So anybody that has thought about that, or especially those that have actually emailed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. These topic shows, you fill out a huge portion of it, and
that's what it's all about.
You get to be. Yeah, I'm so glad you get to be part of the show, and we get to have the conversation, because that is just fun. I love it so much. Okay, all right, fine, Dan, you're good to go.
All right, yeah. So we basically started off in the same idea here. So Douglas Paul, he basically gets it kicked off, and he says, Leo and Dan, yes, I heard Leo's plea for emails, so here you go. Dan, don't feel obliged to read this. Big smiley emoji. This email is lengthy, so I'm not going to read it all. Sorry, at least not here. I did read it though. I just want to point that out. I absolutely read your email.
You just didn't feel obligated to do it as you were doing it.
Yeah, right. And because it was lengthy, and so I'm going to jump into the summary that happened after the litany of distro hopping of 12 different times, and
the whole email could have been its own episode. I'd tell you,
failures, 2 computers, and 12 times of distro hopping.
It was amazing.
Ultimately failed.
So absolutely, Douglas, I read the whole thing, and it was amazing. I was laughing. It was,
we both did.
Fail, 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 fail. Oh my God, it was good. Absolutely good. So yeah, I'll let Dan jump into the summary so we can talk a little bit about it more. But beautiful.
It was good. So I'm fast forwarding through the whole email, and I'm going right to the summary that Douglas wrote. Coming from Mac OS and having designed systems myself, I recognize that I may be more demanding than the average user or sysadmin when it comes to UX UI. I want all my motor memory to function without interruption or surprise. As such, the GNOME DE was overly restrictive to me out of the box. I saw the enforced simplicity, but just as I rejected Apple's Launchpad, I rejected the SuperKey press, where, laughingly, the search function is limited to my computer. So I installed enough extensions and Albert to revamp... revamp the look and feel. Not all the issues are resolved, but I look forward to my new editions of Fedora and Gnome with the hope that the open source community will continue to evolve the desktop experience to a just works condition. And so I just want to say that what I glossed over here with skipping past was Douglas picked some of the hardest hardware to possibly install Linux on.
He picked Macs.
He picked Macs. I mean, they're just, and it is a raw sore spot. You'd love it to be, I mean, like the hardware itself is great, right? And it holds up. It's durable, and it's built well. But it doesn't take to installing another operating system well. It's really built for Mac OS. And once that becomes end of life, you're kind of stuck, and it's a real bummer.
You really do kind of have to rely on some developers that kind of pick up on, oh, I've got this one, or I have some of these in the back room or whatever, and I can kind of tinker with them and make the fix. But yeah, out of the box.
It wasn't the whole context of the woes, but it's one of the issues I think that might be the case.
Well, it was a bunch of the fail.
Yeah. Yeah, things just didn't interact with the hardware well. Not that I want to say you're doing it wrong. It's just like it was, unfortunately, the hardware he had available to him wasn't the greatest to pick.
You're not doing it wrong. You just picked hard mode.
Yeah, you did. You went to the hard mode. And I can appreciate not wanting to go to hard mode. You just want to flip open the laptop and start, going at it. But yeah, maybe it'll get there. I think going forward, Asahi and that project are helping the newer generation Macs. So it may be a better time.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think, we were just talking about Marcan. I think we're getting there.
I do too.
But we're not quite there just yet. But I do want to talk a little bit about the user experience, user interface, and that the super key press. You rejected that the same way you rejected Apple's Launchpad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I'm the exact same way. Spotlight in Mac, fantastic.
Yeah.
Launchpad, I don't know why it's there.
I don't know what that's doing anymore either.
It seems redundant. You have the applications thing where you have all your applications, and then you have Spotlight, which will all the things. And then there's Launchpad? Yeah, I don't know. Somebody uses it because it's still in there. But I don't know what its purpose is really, other than to just be very mobile looking. But your answer to that on the Linux side, on the GNOME side, was Albert, and I respect that one.
That's a good choice.
Because Albert very much does model itself after Spotlight, and I like Spotlight. I like Albert, and I'm really kind of falling in love with KRunner over here on the Plasma 6 Rawhide.
I was going to say, I really like KRunner. So, I mean, I can appreciate that too. Like a good runner tool is important, I feel like.
Yes, and that's how I get around my my app images. So I have a couple of app images, and the OpenRA, I have to play that game. And the Flatpak exploded on me for some reason.
Okay.
And Bitwarden are my two big ones right now. And I put them in Home, Leo, Bin. Yep. And KRunner by default doesn't look in there. So when I typed in Bitwarden, it was like, you mean the thing you downloaded before? And I'm like, no, not that one. So all I had to do in KRunner was just go add a directory, and now I can type in bit enter, and it's good. And open R enter, and I'm playing a game.
Yep.
And that goes for all the other app images as well. Stick them in that directory. KRunner knows about it, and it'll just let me launch them, even if Plasma's a little weird about putting them on a taskbar or something like that.
Right.
I still use KRunner more than I use the taskbar too.
Well, that's fair. And, but like both KRunner and Albert, they'll search the internet for things too on top of just your computer, which is like one of the things you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the vibe I got with why you went to Albert and why I think Spotlight is a good choice. And KRunner too. I think those three are just really good at what they do, and they're super minimal about it. It's so nice. I really, really love them.
Yeah. So, Douglas, thank you for your email, even though it was really long and I probably butchered it in just jumping to the summary. I appreciate it. I just want to round it out with the final thing. It says, Leo, thanks for reading. And Dan, if you're still here, then wow. Well, of course I am. I read everything.
Dan reads everything.
Yeah, I totally read it all. And so here I am. It says, thanks to you both for your show. It's always fun, except for Gen 2. That's okay. That's fair. And I love you both for your efforts. Stay well, and if you choose to use any of this for your show, you have my permission to edit it at will. And I did.
There you go. We got permission first.
And use any part your audience may find interesting or amusing or otherwise. Have a great week and beyond.
You too.
Yep. Absolutely. So no, absolutely. I probably butchered it, but that's okay. I think I got most of it, I think.
So Bruce Hankins sent us some feedback on the Why Don't You Use Linux episode that we put out 2 episodes ago. And he started out. I would say the majority of people fall into 2 groups, the average user and the power user, with most being an average user. The average user just won't tinker, and the power users are tinkerers. So, by the way, we did kind of trunk this one down a little bit as well. It's a bit of a long one, but it's a topic that it's super near and dear to our heart, so we have to talk about it. So, but the tinkerers, that's us.
Absolutely. No, I fall into that category. We're
a minority.
Yeah. I recognize that.
Yep. And I think he mirrored the same sentiment that we had in when we did the episode, and he says, I agree that not having manufacturer-supported hardware readily available in most big box stores is a major factor. If you could buy a Fedora or Ubuntu Dell or HP machine from Best Buy, it would grow popularity. Let's talk about install. It's mostly easy, but how many users will go and install Windows or Mac? Another issue with software is, where do you get it? Is it in your distro repos? Do you need to install or enable Flatpak or Snap? Is it a tarball or an app image? Do you download it from the maker's webpage? Do you have to add PPAs? Will it be integrated into the app launcher? Do you have to chmod X to make it executable?
Yeah.
I love saying this is the year of Linux on the desktop, but it's also a long-running joke. Like, by the way, I use Arch. And he's right.
Yeah, it's all right. Every bit of it is 100%, honestly. And I recognize that I fall into the tinkerer category. I've recognized that for a long time now.
We both run Gen 2, Dan. There's no alternative to call us other than super nerds or something.
Yeah, no, even before that, probably before I even got onto the Linux podcast shows and like all of that. Like I recognize I've been this way all of my life.
Yeah, no, the podcasting thing just makes you a super nerd with opinions.
Yeah, and I have some. So, but I can totally recognize that I'm in a minority, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we're a minority of a minority because there are Windows and Mac OS tinkerers too, and we just happen to be the tinkerers that also use an operating system that also happens to have approximately 1 to 2% market share across all of the whole world.
Yeah, the difference was with Windows and Mac OS is I felt limited in the amount of tinkering I could do, so I had to go seek something else, and so here I am.
Yeah, the ultimate tinkering platform, I think, is a really good way to put it, and I think that when you do have that feeling, because I had the same feeling, you find something that you can tinker with, and that's Linux. And that's one of the big reasons that I'm on it, and one of the big reasons that a bunch of other people are not.
Right. But as time goes on, I can also recognize the idea and notion of I just want to sit down here, do this one thing, and have it work without having to do a whole bunch of steps to get to that point.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, we talked about app image earlier in the show, man. Like you have to, on Ubuntu's, you have to add in libfuse too.
Yep. Or
whereas before,
just get your software somewhere else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was already a step. You already had to download it and then add the executable bit and then run it. Like that's already, even though all the GUIs have a right-click properties, check the box, click OK. That's like a 4-step process to just be able to run the app. And I'm not saying that it's easier in Windows because it's actually not, unless you're specifically looking for portable apps that you can double-click on and run.
Wow, there are so few of those, though.
Right, which is
I feel like
kind of the point of app image. You still have to double-click on them, next, finish, and then find it in the menu and then click on it and then you got it. So it's not like Linux is harder, but in a lot of ways it's a lot more tinkery.
Yeah, I think different. I think it's just different.
Yeah.
And not harder, not easier, just different.
Yeah, and some people are just not into learning the different.
No,
and that's okay. Because I am.
Yeah, no, that's what we're here for.
You better believe it. And I'm going to stay here because, I mean, I'm Gentoo, Rawhide. These are weird things that...
I try all sorts of weird stuff. Yeah, no kidding.
Yep. So, Bruce, thanks for the email.
Yeah.
Thanks for the sentiment. Thanks for the backup. Because we said a lot of the same stuff, and I really appreciate that. So, especially if we got one more coming up, one more feedback about the same thing coming up. But if you have a difference of opinion, if you really think that there's something different about it, you got to let me know. Because, Dan, by the way, the reason that we had that episode was because of Aaron Rainbolt. Had that poll asking, well, why the heck don't you use Linux? So, you and your team seem to be making up a whole lot of these topic shows.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I hope it makes the distribution that we provide a little better. Anyway, last bit of feedback here that we got from Jaden on why don't you use Linux. And here's some suggestions for note-taking apps, too.
A twofer.
It's a twofer. Jaden says, I wanted to root for the Gnome desktop just a little. I haven't used Linux as my main OS for long, but for most of it, I just didn't understand Gnome. I run Arch with KDE Plasma on my main laptop. Recently, I got a 2-in-1 laptop and a stylus for taking notes at school. I put Arch with Gnome on it, and I've been really loving it. Gnome with a touchpad just makes sense with all the built-in gesture support, and I've really enjoyed using Xernal. I think that's how you say that. Xernal++.
XOURNAL++.
Yeah. And Rnote for note-taking. But I still don't understand the stock Gnome with an actual mouse, though.
These people are me. These people are me, I swear. Because I have the exact same opinion about everything. That Gnome makes a whole heck of a lot of sense with a touchpad. But when you start doing it with a mouse, you're like, no, you got to ram it up over there, and then you get the workspaces, and it's like, what? And that's cool, but I've got a really big screen on my desktop, and so ramming the thing up there is just, it's a lot of movement. And one of the cool things about Gnome, especially on a trackpad, is that it removes a lot of that friction.
It does.
From that. Yes, I know. I could push the super key. That's what I actually do. But the fact that
some of the other things though aren't available that way, right? Like, like the super key does a lot, right? It does 3 different functions in Gnome, depending on where you are in the desktop and what you're doing. So there's that. That's great. I think that is fantastic. But the gestures, they just do it. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything else, right? Like, you can get to your other workspaces. You can get to the applications overview and all that stuff. So, I think there's a good point about, the gestures make Gnome like a really very usable desktop environment.
It does. It really does.
But I guess the other thing is your laptop with the touchpad needs to support those gestures, because not all touchpads support enough multi-point touch things.
Okay.
And so that can be a little frustrating too, right?
To be clear, you really just need a laptop from like 2015-ish and beyond.
Yeah, probably. Maybe a little newer than that, even though. Like some of the cheaper ones, I feel like didn't come with. Right. They cheaped out on the touchpad on those, and so you got to be careful a little bit. Like sometimes you can get stuck, and the gestures won't work on them.
Yeah, you got to get real unlucky with those, I think, because I have like a $200. It was at the time. HP Stream, and I mean the whole thing just feels $199.99. It really does feel that way,
right?
But it's still yet somehow has gesture support and everything, and it's from about 2013 or so, 2013, 2015, somewhere in there. But yeah, and it's got it. So I don't know.
And so like I've got a higher end Dell. It's older. It's like 2015-ish. But it's got a good trackpad, but it does not support multi-point touch.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And so it gives me, sad face emoji.
Okay. Well, if you're looking to get an older laptop and you're looking to use Gnome on it, just double check before you push the buy button.
Yep.
Double check that it's got the multi-touch going on.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, that's getting long in the tooth at this point, right? It's over a decade.
Hey, 2015 right there. It's what I'm compiling my Gen 2 on. It's not too bad.
It's not too bad, but it's not real current. So, I mean, I guess that's fair. I can live with the limitations.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say is just buy an old ThinkPad.
Oh, absolutely. That is like somebody else was saying they were looking to tinker around with Linux, and I said like the thing is like just get a ThinkPad. Don't mess around. Like get yourself a ThinkPad, because they were trying to convert like Chromebooks and stuff, and I'm like, hey, those are cheap for a reason. They're kind of cheap hardware. It's a little difficult to work with. You got to get it in developer mode and all that jazz. Just get yourself a ThinkPad. It's just so much easier.
If you inherit a Chromebook, then okay. But if you're looking to buy something,
don't seek it out.
Yeah. If you're looking to buy something, just drop a little extra. Not even really. It depends on how old you go.
It's still pretty budget friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Get a ThinkPad.
Yep. That's a good bit of advice. But I want to touch on the app mentioned here for note taking, because here's 2 more for the list. So now I feel like we're embarking in a different endeavor here.
Oh boy.
So Zernal++ and Rnote, like we got to add those on there. And recently you've been testing a couple from suggestions given elsewhere in addition to these. So Obsidian, I think, got tossed your direction.
It did. I want to shout out the name, but I don't know how to pronounce that. I think
that's fair.
There's some hacker speak in there, so it's like LOLX3, or maybe that's just L for LOLX3. Maybe those are I's. I don't know. YouTube doesn't differentiate, but
Nope.
Person that wrote the Obsidian comment,
Right. And so that's we're up to 3 now, on top of like whatever we tossed out in the episode.
I should never have said this.
It's going to be a never ending ride, folks. We're going to test note taking apps from now until forever.
Watch history of note taking apps. One of these days.
Oh boy.
Just watch.
Jeez. Really?
No, I hope not. I hope not. We got too much open source to do. Too much like Linuxy open sourcey things to do.
But there really are some good ones out there, and I love seeing the suggestions, because I just go look at them and they all do things just a little bit differently. So I think there's a happy place for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah. So Obsidian, I'm gonna try that one first, and then I'm gonna hit
Obsidian,
Zernal, and see what that's about, and then check out Rnote 2. But for real, if you have suggestions on note-taking apps, do let me know, because one of these days I'm going to settle, and I don't want to. I'm going to settle on an app. I don't want to settle, though. I don't want to feel like, this is the closest I can get. I want the app.
It's probably out there, given the number that are out there.
Yeah, Obsidian looks good, though. I think that's why I want to try it first. I haven't looked at Zernal or Rnote yet, though, so watch. Okay. As soon as I look at them, I'm going to be, oh no, mind blown. Now I got to do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's like distro hopping, only it's note-taking app hopping.
Find all the links at linuxuserspace.show. And, of course, if you want to get your email onto the show, even if we truncate it a little bit so that we can fit it in and not have a 6-hour show, because believe me, if Dan doesn't stop me, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Just thank
Dan. I don't know that I'm much better.
Thank Dan for not letting this go 6 hours. I'm just telling you.
No, but I just let him off the chain and I let him go.
I mean, hey, listen. Sometimes. But if you want to email the show, contact at linuxuserspace.show. You can do that directly, or you can head over to linuxuserspace.show and click on the little contact link and stick your email in there so that I can send you a response back. But either way, however you send a comment into the show, whether that's over YouTube, whether that's over TILvids, there was a comment on the TILvids video that I want to talk about next topic episode. So even if I don't get to it, or if we don't get to it on the next episode after you sent it, we're going to get to it. Trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the emails. Yeah, we'll get through it. I do read those, guys. It's just, it's nice. It's a good place to consolidate feedback.
Absolutely. We can't lose it that way.
All right, so time for a little Gentoo focus, and this is more actual feedback, honestly.
Ah, suckers! You thought it was going to be what we did, except we didn't do a live stream last time because, truth be told, a little burnt out.
Yeah, we did take a break for the holidays, but there's the back to work thing is definitely caught up with us.
And slipped a little bit climbing that mountain. So, but the cool thing is, we got an email about Gentoo. So we get to talk about it right here because it goes this is the kind of stuff that we're going to do on the next live stream to get back on that Gentoo horse, because we're in care and feeding mode right now. Now we're just doing weird stuff just to do weird stuff.
So yeah, this comes from Ryan. He's joined our live streams a few times. And
thank you, Ryan.
A regular around these parts. So Ryan writes, first off, apologies for the length of the email. I veered a bit verbose. No, yours was not the most verbose, and it was not the lengthiest.
Oh, man. Nope.
But yeah, thank you for apologizing. Now that you're on to the care and feeding stage of Gentoo, I thought I'd share my weekly system update process that I've refined after some battle scars. Thank you. I'll provide additional info for the commands with an asterisk. For context, I use the stable branch.
Smart.
Yeah, it is. I want my OS to be boring and keep my exciting adventures in a VM. Really smart. Yeah, test that stuff at a VM where you can do snapshots and backups super easy, right? And so there's he's got a list of commands here.
And I don't want to throw out the commands because, if you don't use Gentoo, they're not going to mean anything to you.
Pretty much,
but these are the commands that I want to bring into the live stream next time and kind of dissect. But I have a couple of questions for Ryan, and you don't have to respond back because if you're in the next live stream, we can kind of back and forth about them.
Yeah.
But Dan's a pretty smart guy, so I think he can keep me on track.
I try.
So we're basically, kind of apt-get updating and apt-get upgrading. But there are a couple of questions that I have. There's the grub install thing and the grub make config thing. I thought that the Gentoo emerge binary thingamajig kind of just handled the new grub entries for your new kernel for you. Why in the heck would you add that back in?
So I got to thinking about this. It does do that if you have your use flags, I feel like, configured correctly. And I think at one point in time, it didn't do that automatically for you.
Battle scars. Okay.
So this is battle scars. So this is, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, this is more just to make sure that you don't fall into a scenario that I did where you don't actually have a bootloader installed. And so then when you go to reboot, nothing happens. It just says, hey, you got no operating system. And then you got to go back in there and do these manual grub install stuff anyway. So I think this probably protects you from that, if I had to guess.
This might actually be because I have Fedora Rawhide installed on a different disk next to my Gentoo install, and it detected it. This might be my end run around that issue. I could let Fedora's grub get me into Gentoo, and then I would be able to fix Gentoo for real if for some reason I'm in that situation.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, but you're still working on that, right?
I am still working on it. I'm sadly not.
It did explode on you.
I haven't worked on it. My bad. I need to, obviously get in there and root in and get the grub installed and all of that stuff, and then I'll be back to the thing. I just haven't done that yet. Like I booted up the live USB and it sat there. I'm bad. I'm really
telling
bad.
you, the burnout was real. There was like a good 3 weeks where I think both me and Dan were just dragging our feet. And man, sometimes it just hit you. And I don't know what happened. We lined up pretty good and it just hit us both. So the live stream didn't happen, and yeah, some of the background stuff didn't happen either. But we're back up on that horse now. And so I'm looking at the rest of these commands. There's an EIX update. EIX is really cool. I haven't dove in, I'm gonna get that wrong every time, into that one yet, though I have poked it a little. So we'll come up to that one.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to bring out in a live stream and start poking at that a little bit there so that everybody can see it. I feel like that's a good one.
And so I can learn it, because I don't know. And then there's this GLSA check thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that one does. I need to figure that out for myself.
On the live stream. This is the whole point.
That's the place to do it. Yeah.
We're going to learn how the heck that works. Ryan, if you're there, maybe you can help us get there a little faster. But yes, I want to learn what that is and what battle scar that one was. But anyway, Ryan continues.
Yeah, so Ryan continues. He talks about using SU or SU without the TAC L. That can bring over environment variables from the user session and potentially cause weird behaviors when you're doing updates. So maybe don't do that, right? Also, if the sudo package is updated, that will include a new clean sudoers file with the line specifying the wheel group commented out. And if you're running these with sudo privileges, that could be problematic.
Okay.
Which also makes sense.
I'm old school. I run these like I would run them in Slackware. I just become root.
Okay. So become
do
root.
all the stuff. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That makes sense. I usually do mine in a virtual terminal, a separate virtual terminal. Personally, not part of the DE, for the same reasons, right? Because you're updating all of that stuff and you rip some of it out underneath what you're doing. It might not work well. So like I usually do all of my updates in a different virtual terminal, and then I reboot, and then I'm back into the graphical interface.
Cool.
That's me personal. It says the emerge update command that he has here is his personal choice. He just prefers to include new use because it brings any new use flags, and specifying with TAC BDEPs feels like I'm covering my bases more. So that's cool. Some in the Gen 2 forums have said both of these are a bit overkill, though. But, sometimes you do the overkill, like you said, to take care of the battle scars.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's a whole lot of times where people have forgotten to do something. They've added use flags and they forgot to do it, and then they end up in a situation, in like a broken situation or something. So, and it doesn't hurt to do it. So
then might as well. Yeah.
Why not? Why it just feels like extra security. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
I'm okay with that. Yep.
I'll throw them in there. That's cool.
Yep. It says Portage will inform you if
Portage.
I
love it.
If your config files need to be updated. They do. Leo found that out earlier this evening. Etsy update is another option to help update your config files. But dispatch conf has more features and is more actively maintained.
Okay, so I got to stop you there before we get that last sentence. I feel like this is one of those GIF situations where GIF is obviously the incorrect one, GIF is the correct one, obviously. But we have this, I swear I've heard it, portage.
Oh, probably. That's English.
And Dan says portage. Now,
that's very French.
If I'm going to pick one, I said portage, but knowing I have options, if I'm going to pick one, portage just sounds
Sounds
much,
nice, huh? Sounds elegant.
Yeah, it just sounds...
it's the only elegant word I have.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. So once I get my brain trained there. Yeah. It's going to be portage from here on out because it just sounds fancy. I like it.
I don't know. I see that and I think of the canoe portage, right? So that's the carry. That's where you carry your canoe past the rapids because it's a portage.
Oh, wait. So portage means to like
carry.
To carry? Get out. For real?
Yeah.
Okay, today well that's just more ammo. For it, it's okay. Well,
that's where my mind goes. Okay, so
we haven't done the Gen 2 history yet. That is the last history of the season. Maybe we find out.
I don't know that that's where that came from, but that's where my mind goes when I see the word.
Maybe we actually find out once we get that history done. Stay tuned for that history. That one's going to be a fun one, a grueling one, a hard one, a long one,
a whole season long worth.
But a good one.
Yeah, it's good. Like, honestly, I know we're 3/4 of the way through the Gen 2 ride here, but it's been a great learning experience, and I feel like it does take the entire year to really appreciate all of the things that it brings.
We couldn't have done it in a month.
You couldn't do it in a week. You can't do it in a month.
No.
Even a couple of months probably wouldn't have been sufficient. I feel like we're really into it now, and like we said, we're into the care and feeding portion, and now we're really kind of using it and appreciating it even more.
Yeah.
Ryan finishes out with, I know Dan decided to go with the testing branch, although I doubt it wouldn't entail major alterations. But I can't say for sure. Like it totally did.
It probably wouldn't. That would probably be the thing that saved you. The grub install, grub make config
it would have
thing.
saved me.
That may have been the silver bullet you needed to not have to cheroot into the system and then
next time, boy, is it? Yeah, that hindsight is very visible.
Battle scars. Battle scars. Dan's already got some. I've got only because I abandoned the first one. I have one battle scar, but I imagine there's going to be a few more that I collect before we finish out with this thing.
I really appreciate the experience. That's all I can say.
Well, next time we got another history. This time it's going to be a little shorter. Maybe we'll be able to do that in a little smaller time frame.
Well, we pick up at a later date, so that helps. It's not quite so long.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this history just kind of is. Well, do you dislike what happened with Gnome 3? Now there's the new and improved Gnome 2 named Mate, the Mate desktop environment. So that's it. We're going to do the history of Mate, a few thoughts, whatever else we can cram in the show. There's always that lead-in section, right? We got to fit something in there somewhere.
No, so like I'm just going to say, I'm going to throw it out there. I've been doing Ubuntu Mate. No surprise. But I think it's the crown jewel, I feel like, of the Mate desktops probably that are out there. It's got very curated. It's kind of customizable. It's kind of great. Like I've good experience so far. I got a few comments.
Is Mr. Wimpress still the lead developer on Mate, Ubuntu Mate?
Yeah. Technically speaking, yes.
Oh, well, okay. You said the word technically. That raises eyebrows and questions.
He might be the only one.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought we were about to read some tea leaves.
He's not the only
one
developing Mate desktop, but he might be the only. Maybe they got another developer too, but I think they've only got a couple developers. They have other contributors. They contribute a lot of things, support and documentation and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the scoop, y'all. Clement Lefebvre, Clem from Linux Mint, was one of the original founders of the Mate desktop, the Mate desktop.
Spoiler alert.
And in October of 2023, he had confirmed, it's just news to me and I'm excited to share it, he's no longer on the team. And it did not seem like it was all his choice.
Okay, so there's going to be some spicy bits, is what you're saying?
Well, all I'm saying is Mate was forged in drama. there's more drama.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
Dramate desktop. That's what we got.
Okay.
I'll see what I can dig up about that, but
all right, I'm intrigued. You got me on the hook.
Yeah, I want the other half of the story. I don't know where I have to go to get that, but I'm going to try and poke around. I'm in a couple of places where Clem is. Maybe I can figure it out. We'll see. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble or, make anybody look bad, but I want to know.
So yeah, no, like Mate, it's where it used to be. It's still the same. So
Is that should be their tagline, shouldn't it? Like, it's still the same.
It's still the same, and but it got forged for a reason, and I think it's kind of cool.
Y'all, we're gonna have to come up with a really good title to beat. It's still the same.
Yeah, right in with your title suggestions.
I know. Take them. So good.
In between shows, you can catch us on Twitter, Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Discord, whatever. Just give us your suggestions on our subreddit, our Linux user space, over there on the Reddit, and join the conversation. Talk to us. Give us more ideas.
I dare
all you. All the links and show notes on linuxuserspace.show.
So Dan, outside
yes,
of here,
sir?
Where can we find you?
You can find me at KC2BEZ at mastodon.social over on the Mastodon. You can also find me at KC2BEZ over on the X Twitter thing.
And same for me, Leo Chavez at mastodon.social and Leo Chavez on it's Twitter. It'll always be Twitter.
It really is. And you can also find the show posts at Linux User Space at both places as well.
What a roller coaster that was.
We got through it though, Leo.
Man. It has been, how many episodes have we done? 20, 30, 20, 40, 60, 73. We've done 70. This is the 73rd episode that we're recording right now. And I had not once ever, seriously ever, has Audacity crashed on me. What? I mean, that's a good track record. It's a good track record, man. 72-0. Pretty amazing.
Okay, you had me looking. Mine's still going.
Good. Oh. Yeah, I know, and I've always been paranoid. I've always keep Audacity where I can see the little waveform flicker. But, and today was no different, but it was crazy because you were talking. You were in the middle of talking, and I was enthralled in what you were saying, and all I heard was a click. And neither the mic gave you anything, and I could hear nothing. And to be clear, it could be that I changed the way that it's working.
You only changed one thing, so that was really good.
I almost changed two though. Had I had more time, I'd have done
that
two.
Rule.
Yeah. Almost. I would have. I'm that dumb. But I instead of going through the Focusrite to the laptop, I'm going directly from the microphone, directly USB to the laptop. So I actually removed things. You would think that would make it less prone to break.